Hello and welcome to the 38th episode of the Select Characters Podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in, loyal, faithful listener. I'm Sam Yates. I will be your host. I'm back from my week-long vacation. It was very nice. Thank you for asking. I had a great time. And let's see, since I have this pulpit... Actually, let me get my friends out of the way first. I've got my friends here. I've got Enrique Cancel.
How's it going?
And Ryan Dildine.
Hey, hello.
Hello. Okay, this is my pulpit since I had my vacation, and we might have listeners who are so inclined. I'm going to tell you some of the best board games I played over my vacation. Light up the big board. Okay, here it is. Dungeon Lords, Three Kingdoms Redux, Russian Railroads, Goa, Belfort, Robinson Crusoe, and Castles of Mad King Ludwig. Those are some of the highlights from my week-long extravaganza vacation.
You played that in a week?
We played many, many more than those, but yeah.
Oh my God. I haven't played that many board games in the past 5 years.
You're missing out, man.
Do you have any issues with the snow?
That's what made it so good. I mean, they got stuck here for an extra day, so I had extra friend time.
Nice.
Oh, so, I forget you guys are buried in over there, huh?
Not anymore.
Not anymore?
But we were.
Everything's mostly cleared out.
Yeah. It was an interesting couple of days. It was very pretty, but in general. Yeah. But it's fine. Stay indoors, play board games, play video games, whatever. But let's talk a little bit about what we have been playing digitally. And it has been another excellent week for video games. Let's talk a little bit about what we have been playing. Let's start with Enrique.
I am eagerly waiting XCOM 2 to come out this Friday on the 5th, I think. So until then, I'm just kind of picking up whatever I can. So I've been sinking a lot of time on, brain fart.
I've never played that.
No, Banner Saga, which is like a turn-based strategy game I think I've talked about before. Yeah. Don't Starve, Binding of Isaac, just a bunch of little games to kind of hold me out until then.
I know the feeling. I'm almost in the same position. It's a rough 5 days, yeah.
Yeah, because you're in that weird gray zone where there's a game that you're really looking forward to, so it almost saps all your enjoyment of what's currently out. Yeah,
because you know if you dive too deep, you're just gonna have to stop.
Yeah, so anything I'm kind of playing is just kind of like literally spending an hour on, maybe if that, just a very superficial interest. So it's killing me.
Well, hang in there. I mean, the wait's not that long. By the time this podcast comes out, it'll be 2 days. So I don't know how that helps you, but there's some information for you. Okay, let's move on to Ryan. Ryan, what you been playing, man?
Yeah, I actually kind of feel like I'm in a similar situation to Enrique. There isn't any one particular game I'm kind of waiting for. It's just I feel like right now I'm kind of blah in terms of what I've been playing. Not to say they're bad games. It's just like I've been playing, Assassin's Creed Black Flag a lot. I've been playing a lot of Sleeping Dogs, which we still got to do the game club for. But those are kind of older games, and I'm really ready for something exciting to come and really punch me in the gut.
Sweep you off your feet.
Yeah, it almost feels like it's... I don't want to say their charm's worn off, but it, like, for whatever reason, it just feels like you're craving something fresh.
Yeah, I agree with that. And like I said, they're great games. I like playing both of them. I actually was really surprised by Sleeping Dogs with how much I enjoyed it. But yeah, just waiting for something new to come.
You got
along.
Video Game on Wii. I don't know what the solution for that is. There's plenty of good titles, man. I'll dip into like some indie stuff whenever I start feeling that way. I think a lot of the innovation's there right now.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been seeing a lot of updates for DayZ coming up recently, and they're supposed to put out a video for the new render, which is, I guess, Brian Hicks, the lead developer, said they were getting over 110 frames in a lot of places. So I think that's more than any new game. The render update is like what I'm really pumped for, and I think it kind of is going to decide my opinion on DayZ and if it's worth the wait now.
Right.
It's supposed to be more of a technical update, right?
Well, yeah, but I guess there's going to be a lot of performance stuff. Brian Hicks is going to put out a PAX video from all his information about it.
Oh, that's right. I forgot PAX is going on this week.
Yeah, so they have a bunch of big stuff that they want to unveil, and if they unveil it and it's kind of bad, things have had a tendency to be like in the past, I don't know, I might lose some faith in DayZ, but if it's really awesome, I'll be right back on the bandwagon.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's true. I'm excited because I know the XCOM 2 guys, they announced that I think it's the team behind the Long War mod is revealing 3 day one mods that they're going to have ready this weekend as well.
Ooh.
Wow, that just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good week for announcements, I guess.
I know. PAX South, man.
Okay. Is that in Austin? Austin's a good town.
Yeah, I think this is the second year they're doing it, so I think they're still kind of trying to get their bearings. Because I went to it last year with for Gamer Assault, and it was a lot of fun, but it was kind of chaotic. You could tell that it's still people trying to figure out what the heck they're doing with and how they're going to organize it. So it was kind of everywhere.
Mm.
Cool. I was gonna tell you stories about 6th Street, but there's no reason to do that here.
I'm well familiar.
Yeah, there's a club with sharks in the floor, man. Sharks.
I know. I saw that one. Then there's that club that has like all the games and stuff in it, which is pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. Okay, Austin. If you go there, get it done. It's fun. It's a good city. As for me, let's see. Video games. I played Human Resource Machine, which is an interesting little indie title where you're a dude who works at some crazy nameless company, but it's basically programming tasks. So there's a conveyor belt of items on the left side and an outbox on the right side, and you have to move the left to the right. That's in its most simple form by basically giving the guy a set of instructions. So it's like...
I'm assuming they kind of limit the commands, or you have certain tasks that have to be done.
Yeah, you sort of unlock more commands as you go, and then you unlock the ability to jump and make little loops. You know, so if this is an even number, set it on the ground. If it's an odd number, take it over there to the belt. Or if it's a 0, throw it in the trash. So it's a video game, but you're also programming. It's nuts, but kind of fun at the same time.
Nice. So it sounds like it takes advantage. I guess it teaches you syntax, which is the, I guess, main important thing.
Yeah, but it's all drag and drop, and you're only working with like maybe a couple of commands like add, subtract, and jump, and if 0, then. But I mean, the farther you go up, the more commands you unlock. But I only got it so far before I was just like, oh, this is hard. Programming is hard.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm looking at it right now. I feel like I need a tutor or something just to.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to think because I mean, like the actual concepts are interesting and fun to engage with, but actually sitting down and typing out some code would probably be a nightmare for me. There's so much more to it than actually just knowing how something should work. Like you actually have to type it all out. But that game takes away all that and turns it into an actual video game. So I thought that was pretty fun. And let's see, also played The Witness this week, which is pretty good. I guess that game's.
How you like it?
I like it a whole bunch. But it's tough to say. It's tough to say more than that, you know.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff about that game that you just sort of need to go into it and like discover for yourself.
God, that game. That's a good-looking game.
It is very pretty.
I really want to check it out, but the price point kind of puts me off.
The price point sucks.
Yeah, $40.
I wouldn't call it a $40 value proposition. Almost certainly, probably not. It's also strange to see a game come in at $40. Like just as a price point, I think that's weird. I haven't seen a lot of $40 games.
Kind of hits your brain weird.
But I think 20 is probably a little too low. So it could. I think it could sit comfortably at around 30, but 40 is a little high.
I mean, especially with like because it's a puzzle game, right?
It is a puzzle game. Yep, that's probably the easiest way to begin to describe it. Mm-hmm. Basically, all the puzzles are almost this variations on a theme, and then that theme sort of ties into the environment and the world overall and all that stuff. But there's a lot of actually, it depends on how you feel about interesting art design. Because if you like that stuff, there's so many little nuanced things about that world that you could tell people had to spend a lot of time creating. And so if that ties into the price point of a video game, maybe $40 makes sense. But it is very pretty. It's a gorgeous game.
Yeah.
And it...
See, yeah, because I was looking at it, and what caught my attention was it looks, at least just from looking at trailers, it kind of invoked that same feeling that Myst had when it first comes out.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking about that. There was... I was playing it, and it does give you a very misty or Myst-esque or Myst-like sort of feeling, and I was really trying to think about why that was. And here's my theory. Here's my crackpot theory about why that is. But I think it because when I was playing it, I was like, I haven't really felt this since Myst. Okay, what is this? And here's my idea. I think it is the combination of these beautifully rendered environments, so sort of artistic brain. I don't know which side that is. Whichever side of your brain the artistic one is, right? In contrast with the very clean-lined logic progression trying to solve a puzzle brain. So I think it's the act of playing this game ping-ponging you back and forth between both sides all the time. Right. I think that's what gives you whatever that feeling is, and I think that Myst was the last game that did that also. Yeah,
because Myst had that, like you said, it was like that, on the one hand, you're enjoying that really beautiful scenery that is almost creepy in a way because it's so lifeless, but at the same time it's it's picturesque. And then you have like these really cold mechanical puzzles that you have to figure out that seem completely out of place with the environment.
Right. So, or it's just like a wall full of sliders or something, if I remember right. And I think that was what was in that spaceship.
Yeah.
That was a bitch.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, you're right.
So I think that's the difference, is like the logical brain and the artistic brain, and bouncing back and forth between those two all the time. I think that's what gives you that Myst-esque sort of feeling. But overall, man, I mean, if you like puzzle games, that one takes the cake.
I see. I really want to buy, but like I said, that price point just seems really high. I ended up opting out for was it Talos Principle?
Yeah, Talos Principle is good too.
Because that one was a little bit cheaper, so I'm hopefully going to be playing that. And then if it goes on sale, I'll grab that one.
The easiest point of comparison, is to point at Talos Principle and say, okay, it's kind of like that. But the thing about Talos Principle is that when you're solving those puzzles, you're still in the world. So it doesn't necessarily strip away that whole artistic environment, otherworldly, I'm somewhere else sort of feeling to get you to solve the puzzles. They're still a little bit combined together. But I'd say that this one absolutely, like, when you're solving a puzzle, the rest of the world, you're not really, your brain's not working in that way. So I don't know, but I guess that's not a bad point of comparison. But I think that's the difference between Talos Principle and Myst and The Witness, and that's all very much conjecture. That's just something I thought might answer that for me, because I said I haven't, whatever this is, I haven't really felt it since Myst. So I was just trying to find a vocal way to express that. But it's good. I mean, inevitably it'll go on sale. So if you're not going to play it now, you might as well play it later.
Yeah, I was gonna say. $40 is too much, but I'll probably get it when it's on sale.
I think it's worth it.
Almost
yeah,
definitely.
It's frustratingly difficult sometimes, because you're just screaming at these puzzles like, this is impossible, this is stupid, this is literally impossible, why is this in here?
And
right, yeah, there's a solution.
So you're like, God dang it.
So when you do figure it out later, you're like, this is possible, I'm stupid, this is literally possible. So yeah, I mean, and it's just like, do you have the willpower to do that again? Like, after you sink in and you spin your brain all the way up to try and solve this puzzle, and then by solving it, all you did was unlock another puzzle, and then you have to walk over there and spin all the way back up again. It's not really it doesn't lend itself to long sessions, let's say, because you run out of
I can see that.
mental endurance. I mean, it's crazy, but fun overall.
How does it handle that aha moment in puzzle games? Because you know how there's usually two kind of aha moments. So the ones where you genuinely, I guess, piece together clues from the environment to solve a puzzle, and then there's the one that's just, it's almost like it tricks you into feeling smart because the answer is so simple, but it's just hidden away from you.
Oh yeah, man, it's definitely the first one, because it basically teaches you and reinforces some concepts, and then asks you to make a mental leap and combine them in new and different ways. So when you do that, it does feel good, and you do feel like you figured something out. But it does help that you can always see the finish line, because you always know that every puzzle is possible. Even no matter how much you want to think that it's not, you always know it's possible. You always see the finish line, so you have to think, how do I take these concepts and rotate them and work them together so that this concept clicks with this one? How do I merge these two things? And then when it does and it works, it's awesome. Yeah, I think it's great. But you have to like puzzle games, and you have to be willing to go that distance, because if your conviction slips for even an instant, right, and the answer to all those things is basically just a picture that you could look up somewhere. So,
right,
basically the enjoyment you're going to get out of that game is also a function of your own will to say, I'm never going to look anything up about this game. And even, I mean, I'm still there, I'm still hanging in there, but God, it's been tough sometimes,
Right.
Yeah, I think I'd be one of those people who'd get mad. Be like, screw this. I'm going to YouTube.
And I mean, yeah, that feeling is definitely there. So that's also a factor. But yeah, overall, man, that's a good game. And Let's see, in addition to that, I guess that's about it, man. I found a website that I thought was really cool, but by the time this podcast comes out, it's going to be over already. But it's like Salty Bet, but instead you bet on matches of this multiplayer robot game called Cobalt.
Oh, is that the one you've been talking about?
Yeah, that's the one I've been talking about. I got real into it, and it's just as fun as Salty Bet, if not more. But by the time the podcast comes out, it'll be over already, so there's no way for me to really plug that or lead people there. But hey, listener, if you didn't know about Bet on Cobalt, you missed something awesome.
You missed out.
That's not a good public service. That doesn't serve any function for anybody. But it is it's a lot of fun. But the game, this is your consolation prize, faithful dear listener. The game will be out by the time this podcast comes out, and the game looks pretty freaking incredible. So I'll let you know what I think next week, because I'm definitely going to get. I'm either going to buy it or I'm going to win a key from this bet on Cobalt Stream. But I will have thoughts about that next week for sure. And I guess that's me, man. I mean, that's what I played, mostly except for my super long board game vacation, which was fun. But yeah, I think that about does it. You guys want to talk about maybe a couple of topics? So this next topic I'm going to title Collectibles Why? Why? Collectibles Why? That's what I'm going to title this topic, and I want to talk about that. I don't like them. I don't think that collectibles should be in stuff. What do you guys think?
What's your major beef against them?
My major beef against them is that I don't want to wander around through some world trying to find all these things. First of all, in the first place, that's the number one crime, but also because it's not really gameplay, I was just driving a dude around into different corners to make sure you get all this stuff. I don't like it. But also I don't like it when games don't track them properly, because that makes it even worse. And as somebody who comes to games, I have a semi-completionist mentality kind of thing. Like, I want to do everything in the game, and when it is a list of collectibles, I just think it's boring, and it's not very fun.
Oh, God, that reminds me. Destiny did something similar to that, which is insanely frustrating. In the Taken King expansion, there's these items called calcified fragments. And I think there's about, what is it? Maybe 50, give or take? Or maybe not that, maybe it's like 28, 29. There's a predetermined amount, like, it's thrown throughout, like, the battleship, and you want to go collecting them, and as you collect them, you can actually use that as a legendary quest chain, and you think you need the maximum amount to make this legendary weapon. The issue is, though, that the game doesn't tell you how many you've found so far. It just kind of leaves it up to you to track them, which is really frustrating.
Or like which ones you've found so far, or anything like that. Yeah.
Some guys actually came out with a third-party site that you can link to either your Xbox Live account or your PlayStation account, and then it'll use the API to track what you've actually personally found. But even then, it doesn't track it like by character. So if you have 3 characters searching for the pieces, it won't tell you, because it can't, like, who has found what. So it's very frustrating.
I don't like that stuff. I don't like that stuff, man. And I can channel the spirit of Christopher Anderson right here. Like, watch this seance. It's optional. It's just there. You don't have to do it. If you don't like it, don't bother with it, right? The accent's a little off, but that's the way the spirit world works. But, like, I understand that argument, but at the same time, it feels like I'm not doing everything that's in the game if I don't do that.
Well, I mean,
and I don't like engaging with it. I feel like it's only there to artificially increase the length. Like,
yeah, I mean, when I was playing, Guild Wars 1 especially, they did, like, the miniatures, which were basically collectibles, but you'd get miniatures through different ways, and they were just miniature versions of each character, and it was like, for players who had gotten to the end of the game and had gotten all the best armor and had done, like, all the hardest runs and all this stuff, like, that was their last thing to hang on to of that game. That was still, even though it's, like, not really anything new, it's just collecting meaningless stuff, it was still a way for them to hold on to that game, Yeah,
right? Like you need to have some sort of chase item. You need to have something that you're after,
it's busy work.
No matter how insignificant it is, like, that game had titles that were like, spend 100 minutes drunk or something. So people would just go around trying to get alcohol in the game to then make their character drunk and just leave it there to get that achievement. So it's like, I think it's just grasping, like, I don't want to quit playing this game, but there's no real new content. So I'm just going to, go for anything I can get my hands on.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Sam was saying, it's meant to artificially lengthen your gameplay time. I mean, World of Warcraft is notorious for that. It's, they have pets and mounts and titles and, like, a bunch of things you can collect, but they don't really bear any kind of function on the actual gameplay. It's just like you said, once you reach the final thing and you have nothing else to do, let's go out, collect some pets, or like, hey, let me get a new mount because I'm seriously just waiting for the next raid to start.
Right.
Yeah, I suppose it's status, but I mean, what is that status worth, I suppose.
Well, I mean, what I liked, in theory, if that gives me post-main game content, what I liked about your game was playing it, not running around trying to find 100 MacGuffins. That wasn't what I came to your game for. And in some cases, yes, they will give you something for it. There's little pieces of story, or there's a little bit of narrative, or there's sound clips with some unlocks and stuff. But even then, I just don't like it. I mean, that's maybe it's just a personal preference thing, but I want to play the game. I don't want to try to discover where you hid all these little things. It's not an enjoyable experience for me.
I think the issue with that too is that there's so many games that just take the easy way out, and it's very lazy. It's literally, hey, we hit, GTA is notorious for this. Hey, we hit 100 packages out in the world, go find them. And that's it. And at that point, it's really shallow and frustrating. But I've played a couple of games where they have a unique twist. I know, what was it? Onimusha, when it first released, they had there's this real creepy dude that he would find just chained up, I guess he was wrapped up in the cocoon almost. And he'd show up in random areas. And then if you talk to him, he'd transport you to this place called the Dark Dimension, which is just a tower that you fight your way through. You kill the enemies. You go to the next lowest level, and the enemies get more difficult and more difficult. And when you reach the very, very bottom level, you get a key. And the key, it's a type of collectible, but it unlocks this chamber at the very last boss that gives you this really OP Bishamon sword. I mean, stuff like that. I mean, I like when it's done like that, where it's a little bit more interactive and it kind of gives you something to work towards that you can use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, sure, that's awesome. I mean, what, you're trying to get to the 99 levels in on the Paper Mario thing, right?
Yeah,
or
stuff
the Zelda
like that.
Game that had the arena that was so many levels deep. That's fine. That's awesome, because you're still playing the game while you're trying to get whatever that little thing is. The movement is never the part of the game where you're man, running around was awesome in this game. Sometimes it is. Crackdown's pretty cool that way. But, I mean, in general, just driving your character around is never the selling point for a video game. Right. And that's what you're doing. That's the mechanic you're engaging with, trying to find all these little things or feathers or packages or whatever that they put everywhere throughout the world. There's just not much to it that I can see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not always a bad thing. Like I said, I mean, there's games that, even though it does follow that kind of that lazy pattern of hey, just collect 100 of these because we say so, it does kind of encourage you to play, I guess, awkwardly or play weirdly, to jump on those corners you wouldn't jump otherwise, or to, try fighting these enemies you normally wouldn't go near just because you want to get there. So I think it can be used to kind of guide players to expand their horizons, like in Crackdown, like you said. There's a reason to go out and collect all those little agility orbs, because it serves as a power-up, and you can see some really cool things, like jumping all the way up to the top of the center tower in the city, stuff like that. But again, there's so many developers that just get lazy with it, and they do the GTA style where it's, hey, we have 100 drug parcels hidden. See if you can find it to 100% of the game. That's it.
Or Gears of War, oh crap, I missed a dog tag. Guess I have to play that entire level over again.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. That's not cool, man. But yet, if I don't, then I haven't really completed the game because I haven't done everything in it. And I mean, I could just say, forget about it, whatever. But that's going to be a blank spot over there forever.
Do you think it's more the process, or do you think that can be kind of mitigated by giving a tangible reward for it? Because I know Darksiders had that. It was a collectible system with the what the hell was it? I think it was the shard, the Oblivion shards or whatever. You collect pieces of a sword that eventually let you craft this super powerful weapon for the guy. Or Kingdom Hearts.
Oh yeah,
Kingdom Hearts had it where you could if you found the 101 Dalmatians, you actually unlock some stuff with the ultimate weapons.
Huh.
Shut up. Yeah. Kingdom Hearts is a great title.
That's worth it though, because you're getting something you can use.
Right.
Yeah, I don't mind it as much then. I'll find your Gull Skulltulas for a bigger wallet. We're cool there, I think. But if I remember right, something like finding the feathers in Assassin's Creed. Wait, did you get something for that? I can't remember. I don't think so. Maybe something about your estate.
Not for the feathers. I think they started adding. I think it was with 2, where they started adding the unique armors you can get. If you got all the collectibles afterwards.
Yeah, it's I'm still not going to enjoy it. I'm still not going to want to do it, but I might want that reward enough to suffer through it.
Right.
But even then, it's like, that feels like a shitty decision to have to make. Like, am I willing to put up with this thing I don't like to get the thing I want? And making me have to decide that is a huge bummer. I should just be playing a video game. I should just be stabbing people and jumping off roofs. I don't want to have to think, is this going to be worth my time? Because generally, by the time you find all that stuff, you already beat the game, and it's not.
Yeah, it's like, if you have to ask that question in the first place, it's like, not really.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
I know it's irritating as hell, like, from a completion standpoint, because, like, when we play, we play games for fun, but there's always that part of us that wants to, I guess, prove to ourselves that we really did beat the game, and the way we do it is a lot. It's just by, either getting all the trophies or just 100%ing everything you can, because that's kind of like your tangible achievement. And when they hide those, hey, there's 1,000 random coins hidden in this game, go find them, like, that becomes frustrating because suddenly it's like, God damn it, I don't want to do this.
I mean, when I've been playing a game for 2 hours and I really like it and I'm really into it, the thing in my head that clicks goes, I'm going to do everything in this video game. I love this video game. I want to do, see, get all of it. I just want to be here. And it seems like so many times I feel that way and I start going through it, and the thing the roadblock to that process is almost always a collectible of some type. And then I go, oh, well, okay, I'll do everything else. But then that doesn't feel as satisfying as it does to, like, S rank in a video game, I
know seeing that little, I guess, percentage or meter is, at least it really upsets me sometimes. Like, when you see that your completion is only at, like, 98% because you haven't gotten the collectibles. And that kind of, it upsets me enough to want to go back and get it just for the principle of the thing. But at the same time, I don't want to bother with it.
Yeah. And the more, I guess, as I get older or I have less time or whatever, that value proposition is just not there anymore. There's so many good video games out there. I don't give a shit about your 2%. But I wanted to. Like, you remember me when I first started playing your game? I wanted to care about every single quarter of a percent. But you did this. You created this situation. So
I think the key to it is if they're going to put something in that's ultimately arbitrary, you have to make getting it an enjoyable experience.
Not even that. I mean, not even that, but, like, I think the actual object that you're finding, I think if you can make the actual object something that would be worth getting, because I'm thinking back at the old Spider-Man games, Spider-Man 1 and 2, the collectibles, I mean, like, they were little comic book issues. It was cool. It was a little piece of artwork, you'd find, and you're like, oh, this is neat. And then I think some of them even unlock costumes. But just the fact that it was a little comic book figure or a comic book cover that showed you some kind of art, it made it so collecting them actually felt like you achieved something. Like, oh, cool, man, I found that cover. As opposed to just, find generic cover, generic comic book number 2.
Do you think you would notice? Like, let's say you play a game that would typically have collectibles, some sort of open world thing. Do you think you would notice if they were gone?
What do you mean, like?
If it wasn't, oh shoot, like if they just didn't have that, and are you asking like if we'd be like,
yeah,
oh,
like
man,
would you be
sucks.
like something's missing? I don't know, something should be here. I'm not sure.
No, because I feel like most games don't. It's so far removed from the actual gameplay that I don't think it really has any bearing to the point where people wouldn't even notice it.
Yeah, I don't. I think if they, still included like missions and stuff you could do, I wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Like in Assassin's Creed, like you still have the Assassin's contracts and all this other stuff to do outside of the main storyline, and it's like if I have to choose between that and going and getting another song for my crew to sing, like, I'm gonna do the mission,
Right. Yeah.
See, but
so I don't think I'd miss it.
Yeah, like I like the song thing in 4 because like the shanties were really cool. So like they were something interactive.
Yeah, they're awesome. That's why I go after them still because I love them. But just the fact that it's an artifact that doesn't really actually do anything.
Yeah, or even like the original Assassin's Creed, if they didn't have the feather system, I don't think anybody would really care.
I don't think so. That one feels particularly egregious to me. And I don't know why, if it's because I can't remember that getting a certain number of feathers unlocks something or not. But I want to say it either doesn't, or it's like you complete that unlock after you get half of the feathers or something. So the other half are just completely superfluous. I think it might be something like that.
Yeah,
I don't know. I think one of the games that I saw that did it best, like a collectible type of thing, was in Guild Wars 2, they went from doing like a straight up collectible, like this is not important whatsoever type of reward, to like they do like points of interest on the map.
Yeah, the vistas and stuff are fun.
All you're playing for is just a completion percentage, but when you get to each one, there's something unique about them. And like maybe you'll get to a point of interest and there will be something going on there and it turns into one of their dynamic quests or whatever. But every single one is interesting. There's at least like a little bit of lore, like game lore backstory to the area, or there's something going on. And like Enrique said, with the vistas, like they all look amazing. So I don't know. I think there's ways that they can make collectibles desirable, but I don't know. I mean, even in Guild Wars 2, I didn't care about the miniatures, which are the true collectibles. So
yeah, and so I mean, there's ways to put systems around that stuff, but it's something that's very easy to, I guess, just drop in as an afterthought.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest issue, because more often than not, it really just feels like something they tacked in at the end.
See, I want to, like, I feel like Chris would be on the opposite side and saying that he likes getting those collectibles and things, and I wish we had somebody who had that opposite viewpoint.
Well,
like, why?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, they're out there, they like to see everything all nice and together in a package. It's just like, and yes, I mean, in theory, cool. You want to get all the collectibles. It's just often that the action associated with the collecting isn't fun. And that's what turns me off. Like, it doesn't matter about the collectibles themselves. If the act of collecting sucks, then I'm not into the collectibles.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. And obviously, I think he would say that they're completely optional. And, if you don't want to do it, then just don't do it. And there's, everybody can engage with whatever they want to engage in. But I don't believe that.
I mean, I if I had the choice to remove them or not, I would say no, because I know there's people who really like them. And no one's forcing me to do it,
Yeah, but I mean, the back of your mind, you're always going to have that 2 or 3% that doesn't get completed bothering you.
Oh shoot, I don't care. I'll take 40% and complete. Completion percent doesn't really matter to me very much.
If you're out there and you like collectibles, selectcharacters@gmail.com. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, let us know.
We'll get that counterpoint in. Okay. Well, there you go. Let's cruise on forward.
In the past, I'd say couple of years, I've kind of noticed that games are starting to have a lot of genre bleed over, I guess. Like, for example, you have a game like Grand Theft Auto, which has been called, sandbox by a lot of people, but then you also have other games that, like Minecraft, which is a more true sandbox. And then you have, like Grand Theft Auto and The Witcher 3 are both open world, but they're both open world in very different ways. So we're getting these games that have a lot of bleed over with the genres that are applied to them. And I'm wondering, like Sam said earlier, it was a really good word, I think, are we getting too granular with our classifications of games? Because it seems like you can just say RPG and that covers half the games out there, where you can have, you can have an RPG FPS, you can have an RPG MMO, like that kind of thing. So is there another classification system that needs to be used? Are we being too vague? Is vagueness okay? What do you guys think?
I remember, Chris and I got in a huge argument because I suggested that technically, by all accounts, Grand Theft Auto 5 counts as an RPG because it has all the elements necessary. It's you take on the role of another character. It has it's not completely fleshed out, but it does have like a leveling system, a skill system. So it does have a customizing system. So for all intents and purposes, it's technically an RPG. But
even RPG doesn't mean RPG. Not really.
Exactly.
I mean, role-playing game. Okay. That's very broad. That could mean almost anything.
Yeah.
Technically, every video game is an RPG, right? So what we're saying when we say RPG is like certain qualifications or certain mechanics.
Yeah, and I think when people think RPG, they think of games like Mass Effect or Dragon's Dogma or Skyrim, where it's more, I guess, more story-driven.
Yeah, you're getting thrown into a narrative in those. Whereas, I mean, in every game, or most games, not every game, but you're playing a role.
Right. So that umbrella, what's underneath that umbrella is radically different than what the terms would indicate. Like, action game. Okay, what?
It's interesting that, though, when I say the term RPG, there is a certain kind of game that comes to your mind.
Yeah, like there's a specific set of games you think of, but when someone asks you to define an RPG, you can't really think of a unifying theme among them that doesn't include other titles as well.
It's like you just know it when you see it.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. That's what I mean. Like, I just feel like either the classification system we currently have is archaic or it's not good enough to give you an impression of a game. Oftentimes, you're not going to be good enough with a title and a classification. That's never going to give you enough information about a game to decide if you want to play it.
I mean, I think there's still some classifications that apply. Like FPS is pretty straightforward. Like you can clearly tell what's an FPS by looking at it.
True, but then you have like the distinctions, like let me look at my Steam library.
I know, like Counter-Strike and Borderlands. They're both FPSs, but they're completely different.
Totally different. I was going to say Counter-Strike and the New Order, Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Yeah, I mean that works too.
Totally different games. But if somebody said, "Hey, these are two FPSs," and I'd be disappointed with one because I like one way more than the other. So that to me seems like there's a problem with the way we classify the games.
Yeah,
they're the same. They're technically under the same genre, but they're not the same gameplay whatsoever.
And what I think is that enough games borrow from each other, and that there are enough commonalities to the point where you could say, but you need a better umbrella. You need a better umbrella classification to say this contains these things: upgrade system, first person shooting, whatever, and then just assign something to that that's more generic, or not more generic, but more specific than FPS, so that I can say, okay, when I read Google Gop, like this is what that's going to be. So we either need more genres, or we need to just give up completely and just have a bullet point list. That's where I'm torn on, because it seems like
on the one, for games.
Yeah, like Dewey Decimal System for video games, something like that. But you look at it and you think, okay, there's enough commonalities between video games that we should be able to classify them properly. The way we do it now is borked and it doesn't work. Okay, I got that. Okay, but now, and then you start looking at that and you start trying to say, all right, now how do we do that? What are the commonalities? How do we do it? And then it starts to seem like that it's too granular and that you would need far too many categories for it to be useful. And then you think, okay, we should just abandon the whole thing. But then
you don't want your classifications to turn into like how in depth people go when they classify different kinds of metal or that kind of thing.
Yeah. And so you look at something like Steam tags and you start to think, okay, maybe that gets closer to a proper classification system.
I think so. But even then, when I go and look at a game, it's like, I have to. I see the genre and I see the Steam tags and the reviews from people and all that kind of thing, but I still have to go on YouTube and watch it because I don't know. I can't rely on those. I have to know from seeing it if I would like this game or not.
Yeah,
and it's very frustrating.
It's like working at GameStop and having a guy come like, "Hey, recommend a game. I like shooters," and going through a list. You're like, God, that is really fucking vague.
Yeah, military shooters, sci-fi shooters, and although that the tags on Steam are crowdsourced, so that's naturally sort of a problem to begin with, because some people think it's funny to apply tags that don't match, and et cetera, et cetera. But if you envision a sort of solid codified system that's based on something similar to those tags, maybe that gets you closer, but it's still not something you can put on the back of a game box necessarily. And at that point, it just seems like, okay, what do we do, right? I don't know. I feel
like I just need like one giant set of Venn diagrams to just throw all the games in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, because it is really hard to say, okay, I'm interested in this, what's like that. And as much as it seems like there's so many similarities between games, when you start trying to break it out that way, it actually doesn't work.
Yeah. It almost feels like a book to me. Like you finish reading a book you really like, and then you think, man, I want to find a book just like this book. And it's like, you can't do it because, first of all, you're not going to find something exactly the same. But second, it's like when you have something so specifically tailored to one interest, like a game like Borderlands. It's a RPG, FPS, exploration, collectible
Co-op,
game.
Yeah.
So it's like you finish that and then you get that feeling like, oh, I want to find another game just like this, but there's not that many, if any, just like Borderlands.
Yeah, there's like the elements in different ways, or they don't have some, but they do have others. But the only real, you have to play Borderlands 2. That's basically the way you're going to be able to do that.
Yeah, the only way you're going to get Borderlands back is to play Borderlands. So
I like how people would like just games like that, like the leaps people would make to kind of try to compare them to something similar. Because I remember somebody asking like, oh, like how does Borderlands play? Calling it a shooter wasn't really accurate. So I think one of the ones that I used to hear a lot, oh, it's like Diablo with guns. And immediately kind of makes people stop for a second, like, what the hell did you just say to me?
Yeah.
But
what is that? What even is that?
But I guess it's just because on the one side it's a good thing because I guess we've gotten to the point in development where there's no cookie cutter sheet of what a game or what a genre is supposed to consist of. Like back in the early days when okay, hey, we're gonna make a bullet hell. These are the things that require. Hey, we're gonna make a side scroller, a platformer. This is what we need to have.
Yeah, that's true. And then one thing that's a little different than this recipe. And so it seems like the problem is that you can't just apply thematics to it like you can necessarily with literature because the interactivity is such a big part of it. The way you move and the things you do to play the game, right? Like the interactive nature of it makes it difficult to say that a thematic is enough.
Yeah.
Right?
So what do you call a game like Assassin's Creed where you have the option to fight your way through it or you have the option to sneak around?
Yeah,
sure.
Like,
would you say
do you call
Assassin's
that
Creed is like a sneak, like a stealth game?
Yeah, it could be, but that's not how I play it. I just go plowing into everything. So so I don't feel like Assassin's Creed is a very stealthy game, even though it requires stealth sometimes. Whereas other people may, hide in the bush and sneak around everybody.
I think that's the biggest issue I had with Black Flag because it didn't even feel like an Assassin's Creed game. Period. I felt like I was playing more like Sid Meier's Pirates or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, maybe you go super broad with it, and maybe you just start defining
slowly
them.
narrowing it down.
Yeah, like you just say, all right, it's a science fiction game. But that's not useful either. It could be turn-based, it could be action, it could be RPG, it could be anything.
That's why I like the term RPG is funny because I think that's one of the few ones that has like that weird breakdown where you have RPG, then you have CRPG, then you have ARPG, then you have tactic RPG, then you have table. And it just goes on forever. Like it's almost like this giant spider chart that just kind of breaks down into even more and more genres.
And I'd even say that role-playing games is tied more into progression than anything. Like when I think of RPG, I think that boils down to just a type of progression.
Right.
Where you're sort of going to gain stats or something. I don't know. I think there should be stats, or you're going to upgrade things. You're going to gradually get stronger in a very specific way.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
But that's not what it is semantically or actually word-wise,
Right.
And you're right. That's definitely one of the worst ones. FPS is one of the better ones, I suppose you could say.
I think because with FPS, it's so closely tied to the mechanic that it's become so recognizable. Because a first-person shooter is a first-person shooter, regardless of other elements it has. But
yeah, and that might be one that you
like
could subdivide. And you want to talk about something that's real fucked up? Let's talk about roguelike games.
No, because I was actually thinking about the same thing because roguelikes don't even mean they're not even what they mean.
Not
like the term
generally,
roguelike.
Not in the last few years or so. That you've got roguelike likes and roguelike like nobody found a way to properly settle out that genre and classify it properly. And that's just a place where it seems like because there's less people paying attention to it that nobody's even trying to apply a system, and it's just the Wild West out there with calling things roguelike likes. And it's insane and it's bananas. And if anything, that's a place where you could, because I can tell you like the number of features that are ascribed to a roguelike, and none of them are thematic. It's like cursed items, blessed items, unidentified potions and scrolls, one life, and then you're dead, procedurally generated. I think that's about it. Maybe there's more. Anyway, like those 5 things, good. Now you have a roguelike. Maybe it's in space. Maybe it's in a dungeon. Maybe it's in the actual Wild West. But regardless, now you have a roguelike. People started grabbing 1 or 2 of those 4 elements, mainly the procedurally generated one, sometimes the one life stuff, and then moving them into other games because on their own they are good mechanics. Now you have a roguelike. You have a 2/5 roguelike.
Right.
Like. Because they grabbed 2 of the 5.
Like just add water. Yeah, it's...
So like that whole genre needs a super duper rework because it doesn't work there. The whole classification system falls apart.
Well, I mean, I think the term roguelike has been used on such a wide variety now that I don't think you can even use it to describe what the original rogue game was like.
Well, you could. I mean, because then it made sense. Because, like I said, there was Rogue. That was the original And then there were people who took things from Rogue, and then they were your roguelikes. That was like NetHack. Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup, I guess. Oh, also a deity system. That'll be the other one that I'm going to add to this little pantheon. But as it sort of extrapolated out from that, and as this tree grew and branched out in all these different directions, it was time to come up with a better system, and nobody did. They just, I guess, thought it was clever to call it a roguelike-like.
Yeah, because now it just feels like, I think Moiro's another one. It just feels like any title that comes out that has even some kind of connection or inspiration driven from that original, like the pantheon you established, they just slapped the title roguelike on.
And we got extra boned there because procedural generation became such a big thing so fast. People realized they didn't have to design every iota of content in their game, and then all of a sudden, kaboom! Here's 100 procedurally generated games. What do we call them? And it seemed like that would have been a good time to come up with a new classification system, but instead we just appended it to one of the first procedurally generated games.
Man, how pissed would you be when you realize that technically Minecraft Hard Mode qualifies as a roguelike?
I don't know, maybe a little bit.
Well, okay. That brings something to my mind that you say, when we got procedural generation, you have to kind of relook at your whole classification system. But with the way games introduce new mechanics every year, it's like you have to reevaluate that system constantly. So is it even possible for that to exist? If it constantly has to be redone? Yeah,
that's a good point, because what would you... Like, let's say games started using the Nemesis system from Shadows of Mordor. That's the most standout thing I can think of.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
Are these now Nemesis games, or...
Yeah. Are they still RPGs? Like, it is still an RPG.
Would they be referred to as, like, Mordor-likes?
But I would consider that the biggest sort of landscape shift that I've seen recently. Or, before the cover shooter, I think, was a big sort of sea change.
Right.
But you're right. Yeah, you would need to tie these games all the way back to their progenitors, like, every time. And at that point, what are you even doing, right? So I honestly don't know. I don't have a better system, and I don't think it's completely worthless. But my general idea would be some sort of codified Steam tag-like system. Because I could see a number of factors without trying to boil it all the way down to just saying it's this hyphen that with a splash of X. I don't think that's helpful. So in my opinion, I say codified version of the Steam tag system. I don't have a better solution though.
Yeah, so I like the Steam tag idea just because, at least from where we stand as people who play games, when you're looking for a game, it's very rare that you're looking for, like Ryan was saying, the exact same experience. You're looking for elements that you enjoyed, that you want a repetition of. So when you're looking at those Steam tags, that it helps to have, hey, I want something that's got progression. I want something that has a sci-fi atmosphere, and I want something like this. And I think from there you can kind of start narrowing it down to titles that are within the same pool.
Yeah, and I think that's the middle ground, without getting all the way super granular with it. Like, this game has swords but not shields. This game has swords but great swords and also broadswords. Like, that's... whatever, that's kind of silly, right? But using just halfway between the giant umbrella and the, very granular pebbles underneath, I think that's the way to go.
Seems like a good in between, at least for now.
Yeah.
Let's mail the people in charge of that.
No, let's mail that idea to ourselves. That way we have a date on it, right?
We'll start the database project.
And that will bring us to the close, the grand finale of episode 38. Thank you so much for tuning in. As always, we really appreciate it. You can find us online. That's not a question. You can find us online, and you should get in touch. Selectcharacters@gmail.com, reddit.com/r/selectcharacters. We got a YouTube channel. And it's been a crazy couple of weeks, but, we're figuring that stuff out. We're
very crazy. Yeah, we got a couple game clubs that we need to get out, and I'm hoping to get that this week. It's been very crazy for all of us. So, hopefully we get them out by the end of this week.
Hey man, we're not making excuses. Just bear with us. There's stuff in the pipes. We got stuff in all these pipes. Just stay tuned. It'll come out eventually. So there's that. Get online, contact us, Facebook, Twitter, 5 stars on iTunes, all the bases. We want to hear from you. I mean, we really do. We love talking to you guys. Every interaction I've ever had with an audience member has been super top notch. So you can join that crowd. And other than that, we will see you next week.